Greetings and welcome to the Mount Rushmore podcast. My name is Jeff, and I'm joined, as always, by my good buddies Richard.
Hello.
And Michael.
Howdy.
Richard
You
and
didn't
Michael.
know if we were buddies or friends.
I don't know. Are we
No,
friends?
right?
Are we acquaintances? How formal are we getting?
We're work pals.
Okay, we're buddies from work, and the job we do is this podcast of rating the top 4 aspects of any given topic. And this time around, the given topic is the Mount Rushmore of musicians' articles of clothing. Who was this?
That was mine.
Explain yourself, sir.
Well, it actually came about because a couple of weeks ago we were discussing the Ramones.
Oh, yeah.
And I just thought about one of the things I thought about them that I didn't mention as one of my picks was just their outfits. How they have very distinctive looks, whether it was the sunglasses or the kind of the jeans with the knees ripped out, or the black leather jackets or the Converse. I mean, there is a look to being a Ramone. And that just got me thinking about how it's interesting to me that musicians, even though it's an audio world that they live in, so many of them have these visual cues that are things that if we put it this way, if you put a stick figure of a lot of musicians or really crude, like kid-like drawing, but you just added this one piece of clothing to them, you'd immediately know who they are.
Oh, that's fun.
So that got me thinking about that.
Yeah. You know what's funny? I heard that Rick Rubin did that as an exercise with Sir Mix-a-Lot. He showed Sir Mix-a-Lot a silhouette of
a girl with a giant ass.
He said, "That's a mud flap, girl. You can't fool me." He said, "Do you know who these people are?" And it was all these different artists, and you could immediately tell who they were by the silhouette. And he was saying Rick Rubin wanted to work on his silhouette, who he was.
That's funny.
That is funny.
I can see how those who cut their teeth in live performance, would have to depend on the visual aspect of it. But yeah, I totally understand.
There was definitely, I think, also like an element of like MTV changing things, in the early 80s, where all of a sudden it was more style over necessarily like, I don't know. Did it matter what like the Doobie Brothers looked like, or like all these like yacht rock type rock people? Like they dressed like assholes.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then all of a sudden, the camera turns on them and you've got to like, oh, now you have to be marketable in a different way. So what is it that is going to stand you out other than your music?
Yeah, that's interesting. Awesome. Okay, so it's funny. I did look up the Ramones. I said, what is the Ramones leather jacket?
Yeah.
And it's Shot Industries or something like that. But there's a specific one that they had. All right, so Richard chose it, so Michael starts.
My first choice is Michael Jackson's spangly white glove.
Also on my list.
Okay.
Is that right?
Obvious choice.
It seemed obvious and seemed important to talk about. So I guess the story behind it is that Michael Jackson, like in 1980 or 81 or so, he was touring this like production facility for these people that are going to make a music video for like the Jackson 5. I guess they had a song that was coming out, and he came across. He was like kind of walking around and with this one guy, John Cahey, and he walked past this like a room where there was like a film editor, and the guy was like editing film, or he was handling like actual like film strips, and I guess he was wearing like a white glove because he was like checking the film strip for like a yellow kind of marking on it. I don't know if he was rubbing it off or he's just handling the film like delicately, and he's like apparently he was really just like fascinated with just the image of this man wearing one white glove. So he asked to have one of like just a spare white glove that was there, and I don't know if that eventually became the actual glove that he started using, where one was started to be designed for him, that he'd start wearing this white glove that was like bedazzled, and that just became like the most iconic thing, or one of the more iconic things about Michael Jackson, is that he would become even known as like the gloved one. He would have like that was just the thing that he wore when he performed, especially in the early 80s. And I guess the first time he started performing with it and using it was at like the 25th anniversary of Motown, and he was singing Billie Jean.
Sure, that's when he broke out the moonwalk for the first time
too. And it has just stuck with him. You just think of Michael Jackson visually, and he's changed so much from his.
Well, he's dead now, so that changed.
That changed too. That's true.
alive
I didn't
and
consider that. But just visually with plastic surgery, with vitiligo or the lightening of his skin versus all the different stuff that it really evolved in him, his hair being constantly changed and everything. But, he always kind of still came back to that white glove is like this iconic aspect of him.
Well, that's one of the things that one of the other stories that some of his friends said was that the glove was a response to the vitiligo. That because he had these, which gives you blotches of kind of like white skin, and that he had it on one of his hands, and that was one of the reasons he was interested in wearing a glove. And if you're going to wear a glove, why not make it as spangly and dramatic as possible? Which I find interesting if that's true, because you would think you'd want to draw attention away from it. But I guess if you're going to go through the step of having the glove in the first place, you might as well make it seem like a performance piece. So people aren't asking questions about why you're wearing a glove. If you have it, it's spangly and it's, sparkly and everything. I guess it just becomes, it's like a part of a costume.
That's interesting. I don't know if this podcast normally addresses issues of race and with an amount of sensitivity that that deserves, but in regards to race and culture and performance, the white glove has also been associated with minstrelsy and some other performance aspects, which have been appropriated in a very negative fashion by persons who are persons of color. So one thing I've heard being critiqued is the glove and it belonging to another era of performance and almost being a certain a negative aspect of minstrelsy in terms of co-opting that music and that culture by other people, but it's clearly not what he was intending. It was clearly something that he was gained power from and gained.
Sometimes, people just have weird obsessions, and sometimes you're just like, oh, that white glove looks visually so interesting.
Yeah,
as a singular thing versus wearing two white gloves.
Yeah,
and it's strange if you watch videos of it. It's a lot bigger than you think it is.
Really?
It looks like a little bit like it's not quite
a Mickey
mitten.
Mouse.
Yeah, kind of like a big Mickey Mouse hand. I mean, but he's dexterous with it. He dances and holds the microphone and does all his performing. With it. So it's not just it's not three fingers and black dots on the back like Mickey, but it does look. It draws your attention.
Yeah, it definitely,
like Richard said. I mean, being spangly and rhine-studded or whatever.
It's an amazing visual prop, and it extends the length of his poses, and it gives so much dynamic. And it's almost like a magician's misdirect to throw it up there. So yeah, super cool. Okay, so you each chose glove. So Richard, what's your first?
My second choice.
Your second.
Yeah. It is Slash's top hat.
Oh, good one.
Oh, fun.
Again, one of those things where if you just drew curly hair on somebody and then a top hat, you would pretty much know it's Slash. A interesting sartorial choice. You don't normally think of most rock stars looking back to 1800s presidents.
Yeah.
As your North Star.
Well, I believe that Abraham Lincoln had long, flowing, curly hair too.
That's true.
They never,
and also played guitar.
Yeah, they never painted him that way. They never took pictures with him because it was all tucked into the hat. That's why it was so big.
Yeah,
all his hair, he'd take it off and it would come flowing down.
Exactly.
Yngwie Malmsteen had a waistcoat, I think, for a while, and also,
I did a little research on this, and apparently Slash first started wearing the hat in the mid '80s. And according to him, a lot of it had to do with stage fright, and still does. According to him, he loves performing, but he doesn't like looking people in the eyes while he performs. So wearing a hat allows him to kind of put his hair down over his face. That way he doesn't have to look at people. He can kind of just has this little, pocket of non-hair that he can look down at his guitar whenever he needs to. But it just reminds me, for some reason, hats and big hats and hard rock seem to go together.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of Nobby Hodder from Slade.
Okay.
Another
Yeah.
one who had like a bunch of hats with like mirrors on them, so
Mhm.
the lights would catch it and would reflect off. And yeah, Guns N' Roses were a band that were as much, I think, about the visual element than anything else.
Mhm.
I mean, they look like a scuzzy rock band.
Yeah.
If you were to go to central casting and say we need, which in fact, in that in a Dirty Harry movie, the Deadpool, they were briefly cast as the scuzzy rock band
Mhm.
in a music video that's being made.
Mhm.
So they were the perfect look for that. And you had the kind of Slash and Axl Rose being this like volatile front man, to put it mildly, but certainly someone who's always the center of attention. And I just wonder if Slash felt like he needed something, if maybe he didn't have the natural showman tendencies
Yeah.
that Axl Rose had. Maybe he needed something as an article of clothing or something as a prop to kind of help get him to that point.
Mhm.
And that's what the top hat wound up becoming.
Mm-hmm. It does have a classic, almost like it feels like it could have walked off a tattoo flash art from Hollywood Boulevard.
Yeah,
tattoo
like a
thing.
really, really shitty tattoo. It
Yeah.
looks like a really shitty tattoo.
Yeah, that's an interesting choice. I also have heard legend though that Slash is actually 3 piles of hair that were stacked up, and then they put the top hat on it, and he came to life and started playing guitar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also wonder I wonder how much he realized he looked like Cousin It.
Yeah.
That's the other question.
Yeah.
Was that an intentional choice,
Mm-hmm.
or did it just happen by accident?
That would be.
I would love a music video of Slash trying to hiding from the police, and he hides accidentally behind a snowman.
Yeah.
He just completes the look.
Yeah. I like the idea that all of Guns N' Roses originally they in some goofy turn of events they rented one tuxedo for prom and had to split it amongst them.
That's how struggling they were.
Yeah, Duff was the pants.
Duff
guy.
got the cummerbund or something.
Yeah. Oh, okay, that's funny. All right. Was Slash also grew up somewhat in the entertainment industry where his parents
his family was in the industry. I mean, yeah.
I felt like his uncle's Ahmet Ertegun or Clive Davis or something like that. Or
I'll look this up while you guys are talking about Michael's second choice.
All right, Michael's second choice is
the Daft Punk helmets.
Oh, I
There
love
we
it.
go.
Okay.
More headwear.
Yeah.
The French electronic duo of Daft Punk, the 2 people behind the masks are Guy Manuel and Thomas. And early in their career, they decided that they were going to remove themselves visually as people in this electronic thing from the visual of it. That it wasn't going to be about when music is played, humans are there playing it. It is these faux robots that are created in this music, and all of their music has this, kind of robotic synthetic voices, and as if robots have come down and learned how to do the robo boogie and all that stuff. And with that, they kind of wanted to create like a robot look for themselves that they could wear, and they wore it everywhere. There's very few pictures that you can see of the 2 guys sans these helmets.
Yeah.
And I guess they were inspired by The Day the Earth Stood Still.
Oh, cool.
The robot was that Gort
or Gnut, depending on who was saying it or writing it. Yeah.
They're inspired by just that kind of blank look on the faces, and they've each of the 2 musicians kind of had one was more kind of vertically kind of situated across their face, the other one more horizontally. So even being robots, they had still like a personality behind them. And over the years, the helmets that they wore became more and more dynamic, and they kind of change with each kind of different album. They'd become more sophisticated in terms of the electronics that were inside, and would be able to like display messages and display images. And a lot of it was controlled by like a keypad on their arm, so they can kind of communicate without having to say anything, just by kind of typing into their arms.
Yeah.
I mean, just wild, very, kind of really committing to a bit.
Yeah.
I mean, I think everyone so far that we've talked about has this sense of this thing that they wear becomes who they are as their performance, whether you're hiding behind it to help you perform like Slash, or hiding behind it with these masks to remove that sense of humanity from being on stage, to have it purely about being like a musical thing.
Yeah.
But at the same time, so super visual in terms of lights flashing over their heads. And, even when they did like the music for the movie Tron, they had a different helmet for that. And they, very specific. And I think that, Richard, we've like committed, and Jeff, we've committed to bits for like kickball teams for like, 8 to 11 or 12 week span.
Mm-hmm.
But I can't imagine doing it for, almost 20 years.
Yeah.
Like that's just, you go out and you do this all the time. You're only dressed up like a robot with all the everything that goes into it. It's like I'm trying to think. There's someone on the tip of my tongue that I'll come back to that committed to it. It's very who's the comedian?
Andy Kaufman.
Andy Kaufman.
Yeah. It almost seems like even a guy like Sacha Baron Cohen during filming in the Borat films or whatever supposedly never broke character, even when they were being arrested. He kind of committed to that bit.
Which is why I remember it being a big deal a few years ago before they retired, when apparently they showed up to Sony Records to do something, and they wound up playing a game of, well, this is funny to begin with, of beer pong, but instead of beer they were using champagne.
Yeah.
Which is the most French thing you can possibly do. And then they had their hat. They were just in suits, just with their hats off, and someone took a photo of it, and it got leaked online.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like a big deal to see the two of them, like without their helmet.
Yeah,
I mean, it was like
there is a doc about them, and I think it did originate in a similar stage fright situation as Slash, because you see them playing as a duo early on, and they're wearing masks, kind of bank robber type masks, slightly translucent masks.
Okay.
And that, I think, evolved into the full robot thing. And then, they must be aficionados of like Kraftwerk, because Kraftwerk was doing the robot thing.
Mm-hmm.
They were just robotic in and of themselves.
Yeah.
They didn't need masks.
One of my favorite things to watch is the Grammys, and I think it's 2013 when they do a kind of a guest appearance.
Oh, probably with like Get Lucky.
Get Lucky, yeah. And they're in their Empire versions of the robot costumes.
Mm-hmm.
So all white, almost like the Hoth planet versions. And for me, that was just like, oh my God, that just blew me away, was these guys in their bit commitment. Have you ever seen Electroma? I think of the short film they did, where the robots want to be people in this film. And they're driving along a freeway, and they pull off into a city, and they're driving through this small town. And it is a rural, small town, and you'll see, and they're driving down the street, and they're kind of freakish to the people in the small town. But all the people in the small town also are robots. They have the same helmets. So it'll be a mom and her little kid. It'll be a guy, old guy, watering his yard. They all are wearing those helmet things. Oh, and then Thomas and Guy Manuel go into some special procedure where they have faces grafted onto the helmets. So they're like cartoon giant versions of their real life faces molded onto these helmets. So it's such a crazy meta thing. But yeah, oh God, I love it. Those things are like thousands of dollars. I want a helmet so bad. They're thousands of dollars. Okay. Does that mean that we are at our halftime? We are at our halftime. And we want to say thank you to those who are out in the audience who have been watching our streams. This week won't be streamed.
If you are watching us,
yeah,
then what are you doing? What's going on here? You are literally inside the recording studio and you're freaking us out.
Yeah, and I don't know. I kind of like it because I'm totally naked right now. And you're looking at me,
just wearing a Daft Punk helmet that he's tried to make himself.
Those are like $1,000. I want one. So yeah, do us a solid and download, rate, and review past episodes. We'd really appreciate it, and suggest future episodes. You can do that on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. We'd love to learn what you think we should talk about. And then talk about it with you is always an option with the power of Zoom. So at this point, we're going to get back into the game, and Richard Manfredi is going to let us know his third choice.
All right, my third choice is Madonna's Conical bra.
Oh, not canonical.
Not canonical.
Okay.
But conical.
Okay.
As in cone shaped.
Okay.
First seen in the Like a Prayer tour.
Okay.
And then kind of popping up on and off again throughout that whole kind of time period. One of the most iconic looks of all the iconic looks that she's had.
Mm-hmm.
And that's saying something. Designed by Jean-Paul Gaultier.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you know him?
No.
You friends with him?
He and Guy Manuel.
Him and Guy Manuel, yeah.
Thomas Bangalter.
Yeah. And he was known for these very severe kind of looks, and that was something that Madonna wanted to try and play around with. And I just love the idea that it's taking something like lingerie, which is supposed to be soft and feminine, and turning it into something that's, like I said, severe and harsh and pointy and angular. And it really kind of plays with the whole concept of sexuality and power and what women are and aren't allowed to wear.
Yeah.
What is or isn't acceptable. And that checks out with Madonna.
Yeah.
That text ticks all the boxes for her, I think.
Yeah. Do you feel like it is also a little bit of a throwback to like the Jane Russell, Howard Hughes designed bra?
Oh, sure, yeah,
those bullet bras,
the
that
bullet
you had
bra
in the 50s. Yeah,
yeah. I think she is somebody who obviously went through a very heavy Marilyn Monroe phase.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that was around the same time that she was. It was right before she did Dick Tracy.
Yes,
I think so. Kind of. You know, when she did Breathless Mahoney, and that was also very much a Madonna cosplaying as Marilyn Monroe sort of thing. So I think there is certainly the history of her, you know, looking to that time period for fashion inspiration.
Yeah, that's a cool choice. And I think, like you said, like the male gaze is going to happen, but when you kind of when you realize that you are the subject of the male gaze, or this lens that is perverting or prostituting your identity as a female, when you one up that person, you're in control now.
Yeah, no, it definitely it shifts the power dynamic to the female, and you know, it kind of challenges you in terms of like, why do you think this is attractive?
Yeah. Only other person doing it was Lara Croft in the 6-pixel polygon, whatever, 8-bit version of Tomb Raider.
Exactly.
I think she, too, she was always trying to, it seems like, push herself and kind of shed, like, past personalities. I think for the longest time, she was known as the material girl.
Yeah.
And I think that she had to really do something and change the way how everyone views her. And I think this, whether it was putting out a book about sex, literally called Sex, that you could only buy like
with a cover wrapped on
it, paper, and like very very controlling, like you said, controlling the conversation.
Yeah. Okay, cool. And so now we are at Winfield's third.
My third pick is the white swan dress that Bjork wore.
Oh, awesome.
Nice.
Not only to the Academy Awards when she was there performing, and I believe she was nominated for Dancer in the Dark, but it was also used on the cover of her 2001, I believe, album Vespertine, and she kind of used it touring. She had like a couple versions of it made, so that I guess it was, it's kind of a Swan thing. You can't get it dry cleaned. You can't.
No.
There's nothing that can happen to it that you can like just take it into,
the 1 hour martinizing.
Yeah.
Can't 1 hour martinize a swan.
So Bjork is a very interesting person.
Yeah. To put it mildly.
And I think that
you heard it here first.
Breaking news. Bjork is weird. But I think people didn't realize kind of how like obsessive she could be and how weird she really is as a person until this kind of thing happened, where she was just really into swans at the time. She was really
Wow.
like obsessed with like feeling very
Swan-like.
Is it an ugly duckling thing?
no,
or
just
like-
very I believe it was like very motherly
Okay.
and but also very I guess swans are what's the word?
Monogamous?
Monogamous,
Yeah.
thank you. And so she had all like these kind of conflicting feelings of that and was just like obsessed. She was a thing that she was just presently obsessed with. And so that translated into her going to the Academy Awards and feeling like, oh, if this is probably the first and only time I'm going to be here, I want to feel like I'm motherly and laying an egg here. And she did a whole little thing with an egg and performed with this thing. And I think people just see like a woman wearing like a weird swan dress and they're like, oh, well, she's just strange. But I think it more speaks to a person who is highly obsessive about things. And this just happened to be what she was presently obsessed about. In an interview she gave a few years after, she was like, I think it's, or maybe it was even around the time, she said something to the effect of, it's easy, like when you're 5 years away from something, to look back and explain what you were thinking. Yeah. But when you're in the middle of it, you can't really, you just kind of say, I like swans.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, to have the boldness to do that, painters get to have their phases that they go through, but to know intuitively, the more I analyze it or put a label on it, the less it's going to be compelling to me. So that's really cool.
But I think that really kind of defined her and really, pardon the pun, kind of pigeonholed her in that sense, is that she just became the person that wore the swan dress and performed in it later. And she used it. She was obviously, with her album cover, it became very visually important to her. And I'm guessing that the kind of criticisms kind of rolled off her back. I don't think she cared. She doesn't seem to be a person that cares about what someone would say in that sense.
And is she also, there's another...
Also weird.
Yeah. There's another musician whose clothing is something, I don't want to say because he might mention it, but that was inspired by the theater. So I don't know if Bjork's original career as an actress might have given her this idea of, these are my costumes that I do in my performance that I'm giving as singer. So I could see how she might take a very theatrical approach to it, as opposed to Bob Dylan, who is very decidedly wearing what he slept in the night before on stage. So this is something I learned today. Swan is really interesting, that the Chinese word for penguin is business goose.
Oh, I love it.
Business goose.
I love it. That's incredible.
He's dressed for his business job in a suit.
That's also my nickname at work.
Business goose.
The business goose. Yeah.
If they were to redo Top Gun with the same actors. Okay. All right. That means Richard is up.
My last choice. I think the most fun choice out of all of these. And I would argue the most fun choice that we're going to have. I'll even throw that gauntlet down.
Old.
It's a gauntlet.
That's a guarantee.
It's a gauntlet.
It actually is a gauntlet. That is. No. My choice is Elton John's sunglasses.
Oh, fun. Okay.
He apparently owns about 250,000 pairs of sunglasses, according to him. Which my first reaction was, yeah, right. My second reaction was, actually, Elton John? I kind of buy that.
Yeah.
Started wearing glasses when he was 13. And he started wearing the thick glasses because one of his idols was Buddy Holly.
Oh, cool.
So he started wearing that in kind of tribute to him. And then just over the years, the glasses started to get more and more outrageous. And, I was looking at some of these glasses that he's worn over the years. There's a pair that has like awnings that would come down. So like real sunglasses. There's the classic kind of like big giant square ones.
Yeah.
There's ones that have feathers coming out of them, out of the top of them. Just any manner of sunglasses you can possibly imagine. I can't imagine how many people sent. This is maybe where he got to 250,000. Because I would imagine that he just had people sending him sunglasses.
Yeah.
All the time. Like, hey, I found this really cool pair of sunglasses, Elton. Thought you would like it.
Yeah.
send it along to him.
Yeah.
I wonder if he sees like, every year at the drop of the ball, he's just in New York and sees the 2000, 2001,
Yeah.
2020. He's just like, these are so. No way, you guys. These are awful.
What if we found out that he had, say, 500 original ones and the rest in 249,000 Oakley wraparound, just like just like a minor league pitcher would wear, or something, or blue blockers. He's got all those blue blockers.
whatever things are the reflective ones that the cops wear.
Yeah.
Well, is he just a guy that's always losing them too?
Yeah.
He's just like, I don't know.
Maybe he owns 250,000 pairs.
He gets
but
out of the
doesn't
cab,
have 'em.
calls him back. What do they look like? Well, they look exactly like two grand pianos. Do you happen to have those ones?
I would love that he would set them down at a coffee cup and goes, are these my sunglasses or your sunglasses? No, I don't have.
I'd have sunglasses that look like 8 balls.
Yeah, or a Donald Duck costume for that matter. It doesn't seem like he was carrying on in a... it's obviously a big... To play the stadiums that big, to deliver a show that big. It was also not part of the whole glam rock movement and all that kind of stuff, but it definitely seems like he saw Liberace growing up on TV and said, here's a guy who's putting on a big glitzy glamour show.
Now, do you think he reached a point too where he could have gotten like LASIK and just didn't, or has he had LASIK and it's just like none of these are prescription?
No. Yeah.
These are all just clear glass or plastic or whatever they are. 100%.
Absolutely.
Do you think he has 250,000 contact lenses that are just interesting, that have the 8 ball and like little spiral hypnotizing
They're
things?
square somehow, yeah.
All right, Winfield, you're last up to bat.
My last choice is Elvis Presley's Jumpsuits.
Oh, okay.
Originally designed by a gentleman named Bill Ballou. I believe that's how it's pronounced.
Oh.
Between 1968 and 1977, obviously, until he died. I wonder if he was buried in a jumpsuit.
I hope so.
I don't know. Oh, could you imagine designing his funereal death jumpsuit?
I'll have you know, in podcast world, these guys are using air quotes when they put buried and died.
Yeah, sorry. Everybody knows he's with JFK Jr. and they're plotting. They're with the Illuminati now, we know. So he would design... I guess Elvis was doing, I think we talked about his big 68 comeback special. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And, they were talking about what it would look like visually and what he kind of wanted to wear. And I guess he's saying like, oh, I've never really seen you wear like a leather jacket, but never really like seen you dressed all in leather before. So he kind of designed this kind of leather outfit from head to toe. And then the guy was like, well, I think we, can do a little more. And he thinks that he's like, Elvis looks like he could pull off like Napoleonic dress and like Napoleon, these big collars, and he has a face for it. And so he started like designing like these jumpsuits for him so he could move around on stage and not get caught on things and do whatever it is he's going to do.
And did it have something to do with his love of karate?
I don't know, but I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, it seems like that's right in there too.
Right.
But, they would start getting, obviously the 68 special, it's a lot, more trimmed down.
Yeah.
I mean, physically, but also like just visually, it's, kind of all black and iconic. But, they'd start developing kind of more elaborate like embroidery and sequencing with like a phoenix motif or like a fire motif or, patriotic eagle or an owl or black butterfly, all these different things. And, for a person that, he definitely also had like a stages in his career of just how he looked. He was at the end of his career, the last, 10 years. This is what when you think of Elvis, he's in these outfits.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's just like, it is as defining for him as it was when he was like, just, wearing like a suit and big open collared shirt and a pair of slacks, on the wherever at Sullivan.
Oh, that Golden May thing, or that's fascinating. I didn't know the name of the guy who. For some reason, I thought it was Nudie of Hollywood.
No, Nudie did all of the country western rhinestone, like Buck Owens, and then would wear like all of the rhinestone jackets and stuff like that. Which does make me wonder if Elvis that was a little bit of an inspiration for that, since he, was someone who who kind of dabbled in the world of country.
Yeah.
If those nudie suits would, and the kind of idea of, these rhinestones just sparkling on stage, if that was something that was an inspiration to try and copy. I wonder.
I just see, is it on Hot August Nights or somebody, Neil Diamond has a real Elvis-y looking jumpsuit on. And then as a kid, I remember seeing Evel Knievel and thinking, well, what about this guy? Is he Elvis too? Because it seemed like Evel had like a jumpsuit like that also.
Did the jumpsuits
Which came first?
No, I'm wondering how you went to the bathroom in those. Because did the pants, is it like a one-piece thing? I'm not familiar with exactly how the mechanics of the Elvis jumpsuit works.
Is there a person like having to zip you up in the back with a cape over it?
Yeah,
the cape look too. That was
yeah.
That's when it started to.
That's when it really started to get overboard. Silly. Yeah.
I know an individual who, for his wedding reception, left
holding up a mirror
and took off the black Target suit that he got married in, and came out in an Elvis jumpsuit and sang "Viva Las Vegas." And I recall it had a zipper all the way down front that you could that you could take care of business in a flash with.
TCB if you needed to.
No, I just said TCBY like the yogurt company.
Yeah, I know. I wasn't going to point that out, but I'm glad you
appreciate it.
self-reported.
No, I fell on my sword. Boy, okay, all right. Well, those are some great choices. It definitely iconic. And if you were going to go as Elvis for Halloween, that's the thing you would wear for sure. That jumpsuit. Okay, gonna be honest here. This might be a rarity, but we each get the MJ glove because heck yes, and that's a pretty great one. For those who have never listened to the podcast, this is the time. This is the time when I have a bad Cockney accent. This is the time when we rate MJ glove, and then we're gonna go Daft Punk helmets, Elvis jumpsuit, Madonna bra. So it's kind of a 3 for Michael and a 2 for.
I got the Madonna.
Okay, so
Michael got 2.5. I got 1.5.
Okay, awesome.
I'll take it.
Well, thank you for listening. And I am Jeff, and I'm wearing my signature Speedo with suspenders.
I am Richard, and I'm wearing my signature suspenders with no Speedo.
Hi, Michael.
No.